Hot Type with Evan Soloman.
Now, back in World War II, the great British Prime Minister Winston Churchill was obsessed with cracking the German secret code called the Enigma. The very survival of Britain, of the free world, depended on it. Oh, how things have changed in Mother England. You see, 60 years later, another enigma obsesses the British and, it seems, the free world. It's the death of Princess Diana, the Princess of Wales. After all, for the last little while, all eyes have been on the inquest into the death of Dodi Al-Fayed and Lady Diana. Was it a car crash? Or, and here you must hear some sinister background music, was it a murder plot by the royal family? You see, amidst all this hysteria, one British subject is making as many headlines as the royal family themselves, and his name is Paul Burrel. He's the former footman to the Queen. He's the butler to the late Princess Diana, the man she called her rock. Now, you may remember Burrel from the very public court case that nearly led him to suicide more than a year ago, when he was charged with stealing hundreds of Princess Diana's belongings. Well, only days before Burrel was due to take the witness stand, the Queen of England conveniently remembered that Burrel had told her that he was planning on holding some of the princess's belongings for safekeeping, that was all, and therefore he was immediately acquitted. Burrel claims to be the ultimate insider. He's the classic butler who knows all the secrets upstairs, how much the Queen drinks, quite a bit as you'll see, how Princess Diana and Prince Charles' marital affairs started, even Diana's fears of her own murder. Now, these secrets are worth a lot of money, and after his court case, well, Burrel took that money, a reported £400,000, and he published this book. It's called A Royal Duty. Now, the book includes an excerpt from the now infamous letter that Diana wrote Burrel several months before her death, claiming that someone was plotting to have her killed in a car crash. It is eerie to read. Now, in the book, Burrel blacks out the critical name in the letter, but a British tabloid recently reported that the name in the letter was that of Prince Charles, something Burrel claims he didn't want the public to find out.
I'm not happy about it. I only learned about it late last night, and it was always my intention never to publish that name. I never ever wanted it to be known.
Well, when Paul Burrel recently came to Toronto, he was flanked by several security guards, but I sat down with him to get some insight into his own motivation for writing this book, and we began by talking about what else? That infamous letter.
Quote, letter from Diana. Someone is planning, or X is planning an accident in my car, brake failure, or serious head injury in order to make a path clear for Charles to marry. Diana wrote that?
Yes, she did.
She had a premonition that she would have a car accident, the brakes would fail, and she would die.
Yes, chilling premonition, isn't it?
What year?
1996, 10 months before she died.
That line that you censor is quite important.
Yes.
My dear sir, if you want to encourage an investigation into her death, wouldn't one way to do so be to tell us what's in that line?
Not to tell the world in general, no. To give it to the correct authority when, eventually, an investigation is looked into in Great Britain. It should be done in a British court and by a British judge. The princess was a British subject, died overseas. This letter only illustrates the princess's state of mind at the time. It's not clear evidence.
It's not just thoughts. These are bloody accurate.
Yes, it's pretty accurate, and an investigation should take place. We owe that to the princess.
Explain how one decides to become a valet and a butler.
Well, for me, it started, of course, when I was 8 years old, or a young child, going to London for the first time, and sticking my head through the railings of Buckingham Palace, watching the changing of the guard, as millions of people do, and turning to my mum and dad and said, no, one day I'm going to work here. And they thought, yes, of course you are, because I was a coal miner's son from the north of England, and I couldn't achieve such giddy heights. But I always felt that sort of the passion for the royal family and the loyalty and duty was always part of my life.
You know, to North American ears, it's a funny kind of dream. One stands in front of the gate and says, one day I want to be a servant. Whereas here, one would say, Mom, one day I want to own that building, and I want to, in other words, it seems like the class system is alive and well there.
It's a different mentality because, you know, it's all very well to be a servant. Why not? You serve your queen and country. I was proud to do that. It was a great honour. to serve Her Majesty, and long may she reign, whilst ever she's on the throne of England, we're safe.
Now, of course, monarchists are alive and well here in Canada, but it does get a guy like me, and I think to myself, we sent people to the moon, we have a Bill of Human Rights, and when I hear about that royalty, one thinks to oneself, why do we still accept the notion that some are better than others?
They never said they were. They just feel this tremendous honour to look after the monarch.
But it's an extraordinary thing because her needs are taken care of from dawn till dusk.
Yes. I'd walk her corgis. I'd serve her meals. I'd open doors and announce the Prime Minister. It was a great privilege to be there so close.
I wonder, as the Queen, what her duties are. You say every morning the first thing she would read would be the sporting news.
Well, yes, that's her passion.
Her passion is horses. You write that. Horses first.
Horses, yes.
Then what?
Horses, dogs, husband, and kids. But what comes above all of that is her duty to the Commonwealth.
But you didn't write that. The sentence says, conversation resolved around her most important to the Queen.
The most private things behind closed doors. That's true. That's a joke. That was the in-house joke. But we all knew that the country and the Commonwealth came first above everything.
But I'm just trying to get evidence. And yet, quote, the first newspaper the Queen picked up was The Sporting Life to scan the day's race meetings and read the form. I just wonder, I mean, these were heady times in Britain, certainly in Ireland, what was going on, and yet here the Queen sort of gets up at a reasonably leisurely pace. You know,
At 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, which most of us are hard at work, and she reads the sporting news, and she reads about horses, and one thinks, what about her subjects?
Well, you see, what you hadn't seen is her poring over the midnight oil till midnight 1 a.m., reading government dispatch boxes and letters from the Commonwealth from her ambassadors, which arrive all through the day.
But you didn't include that.
I wonder. I should have. Because I should have included that. She's a very wise lady. She sees her Prime Minister every week, and she tells her Prime Minister what she feels is right for her subjects throughout the Commonwealth. Don't forget it. He is her Prime Minister, not the other way round.
Now I'm going to ask a question about habits of the Queen. And again, I'm trying to read between the lines because as you talked about to me, you're quite careful here about the line, the threshold. The Queen has a drink every day before lunch, and then she has a drink before dinner. So I was thinking the daily drink.
Yes.
And I don't know how much else, but does this, and we've all heard about the Queen Mom.
Does this cross the line?
No, is this alcoholism? Does she need a drink?
No, it's just a part of the social life of being monarch. You know, every government house throughout the Commonwealth knows the Queen likes a gin and tobonny because they're told to prepare it before she arrives.
If she doesn't have it, what happens?
Well, I doubt whether she'd stand there and stamp her feet, but you know, she is the Queen and she gets what she wants, and it's up to her subjects to provide that for her. If it's just a drink, for goodness sakes, that's the least we can do. Give the monarch a drink before lunch and give her one before dinner.
2 drinks that she needs every day, that's all she has?
Well, she likes a glass of martini at dinner time and maybe a glass of wine now and then.
This book is hardest on Charles. It's my reading of it. It paints a rather tough portrait of Charles.
Well, I'm sorry if it does, because that's the truth. It's only the truth. He's more demanding. Yes.
He brought his valets to tears, you said.
Yes. Has happened on occasions.
Temper tantrums.
Yes.
And you, as the butler, you knew that Charles was having an affair.
Yes. The whole household did.
Is your duty as working for Charles to lie to Charles?
Well, he said to me, I asked him, I said, do you want me to lie for you? He says, yes, I do. He says, I'm the Prince of Wales, I'll be king. I expect you to lie for me. And he turned blue and picked up a book and threw it at me across the room. And I dodged the book and missed me. But I thought, well, I think the writing's on the wall now. I think my days are numbered.
Let's talk about the woman that came to define you, Princess Diana. When you first met her, first impressions?
She was just a young girl, very naive, very shy, and she'd just come to stay for the weekend as a guest. And she said she didn't know what to do next. She was lost. Even then, she was not helped inside that institution. The prince was out on the hillside stalking deer and left her behind. You know, that's the way it works. That's the way the household works.
What did she fall in love with? Even on their honeymoon, the guy takes her hunting.
How can we say who we fall in love with? I mean, it's just one of those chemistry things that happens, and she fell in love with her prince.
Yes, but did she
And
fall in
found
love
a
with a
frog.
human being, or did she fall in love with becoming a royal?
She did fall in love with a man, no doubt about it. And I think, you know, in a way, he fell in love with her, in a way which he could understand.
It gets pretty intense with the old butler, but when we come back, Paul Burrel tells us about Diana's not-so-nice side, and about why he put the princess before his own family. I don't understand that one. Stick around for that.
One of Diana's.
Well, I did describe one. There is one in the book.
Describe it.
On this one occasion, the phone bill arrived. It was rather a large phone bill, as you can imagine, at Kensington Palace. And she said, would I highlight all the calls I've made? Now, bearing in mind that I'd been there since 5 in the morning until midnight every day, I didn't think it was too extravagant to use the telephone to ring my family or friends. And so I did I did comply, and I wrote out a check and played the game and put the check on her desk along with the phone bill. It's a game. It didn't mean anything.
She makes you pay for your share of the phone bill.
Mm-hmm.
This is a woman worth countless millions.
Mm-hmm.
You were making £22,000?
Mm-hmm. At that point, I was making probably £30,000.
£30,000.
Mm-hmm.
How much was she worth at that time?
Maybe 10 million.
10 million.
Mm-hmm.
You're working from what, 5 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
until
Mm-hmm.
when?
I think we can forgive her of that one fault. I could.
But it plays out with
so
her
you
fe-
must too.
She's the generous princess.
Well,
She's taking you away from your family a fair bit.
but as I said to you, it was my choice. I chose to do that. There's only me to blame.
It does go to the theme in the book, which is the choice you made to serve Diana over your family.
Yes. I've made no bones about that. That's true. She came first.
Diana came first.
Yes.
You have 2 children
Yes.
and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
You probably spent more time at the palace with Diana than with your family.
I did.
Do you regret that?
No.
Why?
Because my family knew the princess needed me at that moment in time more than they did. And actually, they understood it because they were part of that whole equation. Maria was the princess's friend too, and she knew how vulnerable and lonely she was at times, and that she needed someone to confide in and trust. And I was that person. It was a great honor for me to be that person.
Your wife calls you pathetic.
Yes,
She says you're
Perhaps-
pathetic the way you serve her.
perhaps I was.
She says, quote, she had you by the balls when she was alive, and now that she's dead, she still has you by the balls.
Maybe. When you feel so passionately about something, that's what happens.
You think you were in love with her?
That's very strong. You've phrased that very carefully. I think I loved her. I love my wife and my children. You can love people in very different ways.
There was no romance between you two.
No. That would be inappropriate, wouldn't it?
But lots of things were inappropriate for a butler in this book.
But I wasn't just a butler.
Aha. So is it inappropriate to fall in love with her?
It wouldn't be, but I didn't fall in love with her.
But it's something, wasn't it? It is
It was a
beyond
very special bond.
loyalty.
Yes,
it was love. You chose
Yes.
her above your children
Yes.
and above your wife at
Mhm.
times, to the
Mhm.
point where your wife was infuriated,
Mm-hmm.
to the point of leaving you. She says, I've almost had it.
But she didn't. And because she loves me too.
Was it an obsession?
I think, you know, in the English language is so lucid, isn't it? There are words to describe, opposite words to describe things. I was passionate, not obsessed. They're two very similar words.
But are we doing some spin control? And you're
No,
an
we're
expert.
not. I'm telling you the truth.
But when you take your duty over your own children,
Mm-hmm.
to the most of us that
It's
says
hard for some people to understand that.
people would say family first, and you say,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
family second.
Well, in this instance, I needed to be there. She wanted me to be there. There was no one else could fill that role. And I felt that strong sense of duty.
She, perhaps, was Diana abusing your sense of duty? At one point, she calls you in the middle of the night and she says, take this letter to one of my suitors. Deliciously, you don't name him. You fly off to some land to deliver one of her love notes and abandon your family. Your wife's furious. Does she abuse you?
No. I had a choice. I had a choice to say yes or no. At any one point, I had a choice to walk out that door if it became too much for me.
Do you think your relationship with her was unhealthy for you? I mean, you almost got sick with your obsession.
You keep using that word, obsession.
It is.
Why don't you use passion?
Because when I read it, the word obsession kept coming in.
Did it?
And in fact, you use the word, and you say in the book, some might call this an obsession.
Some might.
I think I must be part of the some.
Yes, you are. When you care for something so deeply and strongly, it is all-consuming, and you do give your all. I mean, people have felt so passionately about the country and gone to war and died for it.
But their own families, their children.
They've left their families behind, and they've felt a strong sense of duty to do something, and they've done it.
So you think that your duty to Diana was the equivalent of a soldier going to war?
I can't say that. I'm just drawing a simile here. I'm drawing a parallel line.
After the break, Paul Burrel talks about why there will probably never be a butler quite like him again. And then, well, I have to give my review of A Royal Duty. You don't want to miss that. Stick around.
You describe yourself in the book as an independent witness.
Yes.
And yet, independent witness, my God, you were on the payroll. You were Lady Diana. You say straight up in the book, I'm going to set the record right about all this. Why should we trust you as a biographer of Diana if you won't reveal the secrets? You know, as a journalist, and I know our loyalty is to truth, your loyalty is to her.
Yes, it is.
So then why should we trust you?
But if I revealed all the secrets, what sort of person would I be? I wouldn't be the person the princess trusted in her lifetime.
I have to ask you, you can decide. You said she had suitors, a famous musician here in Canada. One of them is Bryan Adams.
I never said that.
No, you never said it was Bryan Adams. You said it was a musician.
I didn't say it was a musician in Canada either.
No, but we know that one of the musicians was the Canadian Bryan Adams.
It could have been Elton John.
Was it Bryan Adams?
If I'd wanted you to know that, I would have written it in the book.
Let me ask you another question. Let's talk about Dodie. One of the myths about Diana, according to you, is that she was ready to marry Dodie. Not true.
Not true. They were not going to become engaged and get married.
Listen to this description of Dodie. He keeps going to the bathroom. He keeps sniffing. Now, we're both men of the world here.
Obviously,
are you saying he was on cocaine?
I never said that.
I know you didn't say it.
Maybe the air conditioning was too high.
How can I not think the guy was on cocaine?
Yes, but you know, in this world of literary, you cannot possibly write certain things about people without incurring libel suits or whatever.
So you suggested.
You may just assume whatever you wish to assume.
Why did they accuse you of stealing?
The reason of writing the book is that misapprehension that's always followed me of my closeness to the princess. No one understood the unique, intimate nature of our friendship. And neither did the police when they knocked on my door. As far as they were concerned, I was the servant that served the tea. And as far as her family were concerned, I was the guy that should only have a pair of cufflinks and a photograph. How could I have spent every waking day with that incredible woman and her not have given me anything or trusted me in her life? It was just a farce.
There are those who would say Paul was broke at the end of this trial.
I was.
Yes, he had established a small flower shop to try to survive, and so he got £458,000 pounds.
That much?
What was it?
Did I?
Well, you tell me.
To be quite honest, I can't remember.
Am I close?
It was several £100,000, yes.
And he's writing a book with these. It's not quite a tell-all. It's tell a little. But he keeps saying there's dark secrets that I shall not tell. So he can write another book so he can continue to make money off the memory of the princess.
No, it's not about money. You've missed the point. It really isn't about money. It's about the truth. The truth which hasn't been said before.
In writing this book, have you changed the way valets and butlers will be trusted? Is it just open season on anybody that you serve?
I don't think it is. I think my position was unique. The princess was unique. My position with her was unique. It was an incredible time. I don't think that situation will happen again.
Do you feel responsibility? Could you bring down the House of Windsor if you wanted to?
I sincerely hope not.
Could you, though?
No, absolutely not.
The dark secrets are not that dark?
Absolutely not. I mean, the monarchy is the fabric of the British establishment.
Could you ever be a butler again?
well, I think I've lost my anonymity now, and I couldn't possibly do those things again. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Hot Type.
You know, my comments about Paul Burrell's book, A Royal Duty, ought to be taken with a silo of salt, since I'm not a royal watcher of any note, and I have very little interest in the House of Windsor's petty goings-on. Nonetheless, like everyone, I have a taste for the prurient and the gossipy, and I wish no one the fate of Lady Diana. But this book is not a tell-all. It's more like a tell-a-bit. It's tantalizing and annoying at the same time. It's a love letter of a servant who's deeply conflicted about his need to cash in on his insider knowledge of a family who has rejected him, and his still unabashed desire to be re-invited back in the dysfunctional fold. And it is dysfunctional. You see, Charles comes off as a moody and duplicitous cad. The Queen comes off as a horse and dog-obsessed dysfunctional mother who loves her drink, and Diana comes off as a childish socialite whose charitable endeavors seemed more like public relations maneuvers calculated to taint the rest of the royals than something from the heart. All that said, you know what this book was? Pleasurable to read in a sick kind of way, and to feel so superior to the royal family. This is like licking a big candy bar. It's enjoyable all the way through until at the end you find yourself, well, with a terrible bellyache and a heart full of regret for time that should have been spent doing other things, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the very role that monarchy plays today in society. A Royal Duty is published by Penguin. It's a bestseller. There's lots of royal watchers out there who I'm sure will disagree with me on this one. That's all for this week, and I'm Evan Soloman. See you at 7.